Hey there, randos. Random Dave here doing another repair video. This one is on a Volvo 2012 XC60 T6 all-wheel drive. Doing this full brake job. We're going to run around all four wheels, brakes and rotors. This car originally came from Chicago and it was very well cared for there, and now it's in San Diego. So we're going to get the brakes all done up. Some rusting, from Chicago winters and salted roads, but overall the vehicle is in fantastic condition. It's less than 80,000 miles, something like 78,000 miles, and she's looking good. She's also due for an oil change, so we're going to have that on tap, and then of course a bath is in order. So a few things to do, but brakes are what we're working on today. We're going to be using some Akabonos that I ordered from a online retailer that specializes in Euro vehicles. So we got those Akabonos coming up, and we got some hardware, basically your caliper bracket bolts, and then there's some clips for the brakes themselves, brakes for the clips themselves in the mix here. And then we're using these rotors, Zimmerman rotors, and they look like they'll do the trick. They're heavy as, well, a rotor. So yeah, they look pretty nice. I think, and they do have a little braking in period, pardon the pun, but that's what we're in for today. So we'll be recording that process, and hopefully nothing goes wrong. I have never done a brake job on brakes and rotors on a Volvo, that's for sure. Alright, we're going to pause it up right now and get the car jacked up. Also, I'm going to be rotating the tires fronts to backs, because the back tires are in pretty good shape and the front tires need to be rotated. So that is yet another thing. Alright. Okay, we're going to remove the wheels. It's 19s are the one. We can see we got the clip right here, the clip here. Which corresponds to this clip here. Gehaushaltefeder. Gehaushaltefeder. Caliper housing spring. 11.8.11.6-0133.1. Yeah. Good shape, they're just, showing some wear and rust. So it's all doable. I feel like Eric O from South Maine having to deal with the rusty stuff. Alright, let's pause it up and start working. All right, so I wasn't recording, apparently. I had to remove the I had to remove the caliper, which was 17. Let's take a look here. 18 millimeter. Removing the old caliper bolts, I used the 18 millimeter. So old rusty caliper bolts and 18 millimeter socket, and then I had to use a T50. That's not a T50. I had to use a T50 to remove the Torx that was holding the old rotor on. Alright, so now I'm going to compress the cylinders for the brake caliper here. And I'm using my Knipex and just kind of looking for a place to purchase. I don't have the tool for this, so just got to give them a squeeze, slow and gentle. I don't open up the brake bleed or anything. The amount of movement on this, I think, is minimal enough. You'll find most people would agree with that, I think. Well, some people would agree with that. So just gotta squeeze in those cylinder pieces, and then don't forget to put on some grease on them. Whatever you like to use, Permatex or something, you know. But try to back them up because the new brake pads are going to be pretty thick. There we go. That one's in pretty good. This other side, it's probably a whack-a-mole thing going on here, but let's just see. Yeah, a little bit of that whack-a-mole effect. And then I've been wire brushing. None of this made it onto the video here. So just squeezing those pistons back. I actually don't have a T7. A T7, not a T7, a Hex 7, H7. But I can just see how these things slide pretty good. They seem to be lubed up enough. So yeah, I'm scrubbing away. How's that look? Decent. Yeah, scrubbing away at the rust. This was a Chicago car. Try to get a nice surface here. I don't have a sandblaster. So you just kind of go at it, you know what I mean? All the mating surfaces, this is what takes a little time. For the brake pads here, they slide on these surfaces here, so I try to remove as much rust as I can. Making a big mess. Which I'm pretty sure I'm not going to get all of that rust and have this shiny metal, that's for sure. But I'll do what I can in the time that I have. Like I said, it seems to slide pretty good. Wonder if I could probably sneak a little grease in there. Grease it up. Little piston ends here. Kind of get as much as I can of the circumference there and give it a few pumps. Some of it will get in, I think. Yeah, it's already moving nicely. Okay, great. Actually have some special grease that came from FCP Euro. I think that's the name of them, where I ordered all these parts from. Pleasure doing business with you fellas, ladies and gentlemen. And try not to get any schmutz, any grease, silicone lube, anything on the pads and the face of the brakes. Face of the rotors. These have these clips that fit into these cylinders here on the earpiece here. Try not to get it anywhere else. This just looks actually like silicone lubricant, which I have. Super lube. Everybody loves the super lube. So clean hands. Drop that in there. And you just gotta snap her into place. Make sure my thumbs are clean. Everything's lined up. Good. And looks like she's in. Looks like things will be all right there. Round two, the outer facing. Cover those ears, their lube. Kind of slap it on there. Yeah, I don't think you need it gooped on, but you want a film of this stuff on there. Because that's what's going to do the work. And then this one goes in with the pad material facing away from you. Try to pull it back into place there. And Bob's your uncle, right? Isn't that what they say? And then we have our new clip. The old clip coming out. So the way this goes, it has these little tabs that go up into here. They lock in, and then, well, this is the best way to show you. Lever it into place. All right, so we get that. pull down or use a device, snap, crackle, pop into place. And it kind of has a little back tension resistance for the system here. Hopefully keeps that all in where it needs to be. Got a rotor. If you want, you can wipe it down with brake clean, but it's coated and I don't think I touched anything on it. Another thing I did want to mention was I put some, before I put this rotor on, I'll show you on another wheel, but I just put some super lube on this hub here, and then put on our Torx bolt T50. All right, if I'm happy with everything that I see, I'm going to do a little bit more rust removal back here. Pretty rusty, but you know, all things considered, it's just surface rust. Now I can remove our hanger, and then I try to squeeze it over. Wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. And make sure our clip's in place. This doesn't look quite in place to me. Oh, it is. It's in there. Yeah, those little tongues, those little knobs got to fit into a little recess in the actual caliper part. Okay, oh good. Just put a little torque on this to make some space so we can move around. And then we use new from the company, the brake, where I ordered the brakes from, we got new caliper bolts here, which is, I guess, recommended by Volvo. So we're trying to do what's recommended. We'll just get those started back here. I know you can't see what I'm doing, but if you can imagine somebody threading a bolt through a bolt hole, you'll get the picture. Let's take a look. Spin everything around and make you all dizzy, but you see what I'm working with here. That bolt, that's our new one going in. There's one underneath down here about, yeah, there she is. 1, 2, buckle my shoe. Okay, now I'm gonna get these things dialed in, and we'll go from here. Okay. So these caliper bolts have thread locker on, and I think they're torqued down to like 200 Newton meters or something. I'll torque those down. Momentarily, but I just want to make sure things looking good there. New pads, new rotors, and new caliper bolts. An UT50, and yeah, this looks pretty good. We're just going to work our way to the back wheel now. I don't really have good lighting here. What's this here? Something. Let's get our focus. It's going to be the same procedure. We're going to remove these caliper bolts. They're a little different on the back end here. We're going to try to have to spin these bolts off, and we're going to, I think, have to hold a retaining bolt of sorts. So I'm going to fiddle around with that and then show you the right way to do it. So for the rear, I'm actually removing this slide from the whole caliper assembly. I had to use my Knipex and a 13 millimeter, and I had to grip, unless you have, I think this might be like a 7 or an 8 or I don't know, wrench fit in here to hold this bolt, because otherwise the whole thing just slides. So I had to grip and turn it out, and it does have some blue thread locker on it, so it's a little bit of a pain, but doable. So now I have, including the emergency brake assembly, everything's out. So I think I can wiggle this whole dealio off and just set it on top for now. And that gives me access to the brakes. I guess I'm not gonna, well, I'm gonna have to get this whole caliper off, but that's probably gonna, it's very rusty, so I'm gonna have to spray it down with a little PV blaster and let it soak in. So I'm gonna pause. The rear brake pads actually look pretty good. I don't know if you can make that out, but they're pretty decent. I'm just gonna replace them anyway, because, well, that's what we're doing. And don't forget to remove all the old hardware. That comes with the FCP Euro kit that I ordered, with the Zimmerman rotors and the Akabono brake pads. That was a rascal trying to get these off. They're 15 millimeter bolts in the back. Let's see where my ratchet is there. 15 millimeters. They're on there with some, you know, Loctite stuff, thread locker, and just had to struggle and find a way to get some leverage on there, and a few different breaker bar combinations did the trick to loosen them up. And now my favorite Harbor Freight Extendo ratchet finishing the job. I do have the new brakes on there, pads and rotors. These are coated, and you can see kind of the gray that's still on there. Let's step around. A little better lighting over here. see, these are coated rotors. They only wear where the pads are. I don't know if you can make that out, but that's some Akabono ceramics. It took a little driving around the neighborhood and braking to get them to kind of seat in, but so they made a little grinding noise at first, but don't get worried. That's normal as it kind of seats in and wears off the coating. This gray coating is just a thin coating on there to prevent rust. So anywhere that the brake pads aren't contacting, that coating protects the rotor. Here's the fronts. Some big beasts on here, that's for sure. And I don't know if you can tell, but that's a fresh clip, fresh pad in there. They're tapered. Some pad material, ceramic, but yeah, they're good. And yeah, it's a beaut. It was a challenge, especially the old bolts that were in there on the brake calipers were pretty rusty, and the rear, one of the issues was the way that the emergency brake works. I had to rotate and compress. They have tools for it, but rotate and compress that cylinder here. The fronts I could do very easily. So yeah, I call that a success. And right now with the front, what I'm working on is the cabin air filter. I did the regular air filter and changed the oil. Oil filter is new. And now we're on cabin air filter from inside the vehicle. Basically what you got to do is remove a panel here with two Torx. I believe it's T25s. Torx bolts here. Those come out. You can see an example of one of those rascals, T25. And then you pop off the side panel, which is here on the side, and it's just one of those kind of compression bolt, compression fit, expandable clips. So you get that out of the way, and then last thing to do is to remove the fuse box that's underneath here, and you kind of pull towards the top. Let's get a little better view and get my thing out of the way, but now of course everything's all in the way of it, but it sits up in there, and you pull the top and it releases, and then the bottom comes out. These two little legs here and here fit those two little openings there and there, and then this thing should come out probably with a bit of dust. As a graduation gift to my son, new pads and rotors and oil change, filter changes, and get this beast cleaned inside and out. I kind of wiped it down pretty good inside, and yeah, gotta get those bird turds off there. That'll eat through the paint. To anybody watching, you get bird turds on there, clean it off ASAP. You'll do your paint a big favor. Alright, so that's about it for now, folks. And the 2012 Volvo XC60 3.0 liter 6-cylinder. Signing out.